In this video, we're going to go over what exactly is machine learning. So machine learning at a most basic and fundamental kind of level is really all about programming machines to do a certain task, right? We're programming them to be able to accomplish, to execute, to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, whatever that may be. And so in this particular lesson here, we're going to walk through exactly what machine learning is, how it actually works in a practical manner, right? Some practical applications, and really why this is such an important understanding for you to have in this particular course. Because if you don't really understand what machine learning is about, you don't understand how the algorithms work and how it's really centered around the machine learning based off of information that is presented, then you're going to have a hard time being able to understand all of the other concepts, ideas, and frameworks within this course. So let's go ahead and jump into what exactly is machine learning, because I want you to get this fundamental understanding and be able to have you understand it at a very basic level. Because if you can't really reiterate how or something works in a very practical, very straightforward, and high level manner, then it's going to be hard for you to be able to learn it. Because if you can explain it to somebody else very quickly and easily, what it means and what it does, then it's going to be difficult, right? But that's why you're taking this course and you're learning exactly how to do just that. So let's go ahead and get an understanding here, fundamentally of what machine learning is, right? Okay, so given the attention that machine learning has received and the various sophisticated problems that machine learning solves, it oftentimes seems like machine learning is this magic type of formula or algorithm that is created or that it's set up, right? But really it's not. It's built on a foundation of mathematics and statistics, and is developed over many decades of being able to, and it's been developed over a long time. A very practical way to think about machine learning is think of it as a unique way of programming computers, right? Ultimately, if you want to think about it from one sentence, right, is this last one that I just said. Think about machine learning as far as it being able to be something where you are programming computers. It's a unique way to program computers to take a certain action or to do whatever kind of action you want them to take, right? And so most programming that is not machine learning is procedural, right? And that's very important to understand there, because if it's not machine learning, then it's very process-based. It's essentially a set of rules defined by a human. And so this rule set is called an algorithm, right? And in machine learning, the underlying algorithm is selected or designed by a human. So you look at the right-hand side there, you can see the images. It's really the understanding that, machine learning is allowing us to input some data, input whatever output that we want, and put it into the computer, and then boom, we see that there's an output that comes out on the other side, right? So machine learning, just like I mentioned, is the idea that computers can learn from examples and experience without being programmed to do so, right? So we are looking to get the programming. So instead of writing code, you feed data to a generic algorithm and it builds logic based on that data given. So you're building and you're putting together a specific algorithm, right? Machine learning algorithm. And you are programming it to do a certain task. Maybe you're looking for, various images of a dog or whatever that may be, right? You're programming it by giving it a lot of data so that it can understand what you're looking for. And then boom, it starts to learn what you're wanting for it to actually output, right? You're wanting it to pick up just dog images. Well, hey, after it sees a bunch of dog images and it starts to get familiar with it, right? Then it starts learning, hey, these are dogs, these are cats, these are dogs, right? These are cats. And so it's about programming it to be able to do certain tasks, certain things based off the algorithm that you've set up, right? And so a very simple example here is going to be the Facebook algorithm. I'm sure you have a Facebook profile, and I'm sure you're on there, you're on your news feed, and you are constantly seeing, images, different ads, different videos, different news feeds, updates, right, from, maybe friends and family, different companies you follow, different brands you follow, right? All of that is created based off of all your different likes, your comments, your engagements, your video views, all of that, Facebook is going into the algorithm. They're taking that into effect, right, into account, and they're looking at what kind of pages you like, what kind of comments are you leaving, what kind of engagement do you have, what kind of brands do you like, what kind of videos are you watching, and then guess what? It's learning all of that, and then it's going to show you similar related content. That's extremely powerful, right? It's a very simple example. You're getting constantly shown the same type of material, the same type of content, because guess what? That is what you fed into the algorithm, right? Because it already knows what you like, and it's continuing to showcase similar stuff. It's reinforcing what you already like, right? And so that's what's really powerful about the algorithms, is that they're able to learn very quickly what you like and continue to show you different things based on what actions you're taking, right? So machine learning is getting computers to programming. And so just like I mentioned with the example of the Facebook algorithm learning, right, on its own based on information, that is what essentially machine learning is really all about. It's about programming, a machine to do a certain task, right, by itself. It's about getting computers to program themselves based on different sets of data and inputs, right? So very important there to understand that it's all about the programming, right, and the machine learning on its own. And if programming is automation, then machine learning is automating the process of automation. So think about that for a moment, right? So programming is the automation. I want to automate something. Then the machine learning is the automating of the process of the automation. Maybe you want to automate an email, right? Then the email gets automated, and then there's the process that is automating the automation of the email, right? It's kind of difficult to kind of grasp there for a second there. And you may need to think about this for a couple minutes to have it really kind of sink in here. But just think about it from the perspective of you are creating something that knows how to do a task, right? Let's say send an email, and then you are programming the machine to send the email based on your different automation criteria, right? So I know it's a little bit hard to so let's look at some examples here of the traditional and machine learning kind of programming. So the traditional programming has the data and the program that is being run on the computer to produce the output. So let's say you have, data. Let's say you have QuickBooks on your computer, and you're putting in QuickBooks, and you're putting in there as far as like maybe sales information, revenue information for a business, right? So you have the data that's being input into the program that's on your computer, and then based off that, you're going to get an output, right? And then with machine learning, data and output, right, is run on the computer to create a program. So notice a difference there. So you have the data and the output for the machine learning, and then that goes into the computer, and then you have a different output, right? So that's really how you want to think about it. Machine learning is just extremely powerful because just like with the example of the Facebook algorithm, it's learning. It's, essentially being able to understand what you're ultimately looking to accomplish, or the, data that you're looking to capture, because you've programmed it in such a way to be able to pick on certain criteria, right? So let's look at some applications of machine learning. So some of the various applications here are going to be web search, right? Ranking pages based on what you're most likely to click on. Then we have finance, where you're deciding who to send what credit card offers to, the evaluation of risk on credit offers, how to decide where to invest money, right? Just think about any time that you are online and you're looking to get a credit card offer, or you're looking to submit an application to maybe get some store credit or whatever that may be, right? Where you're looking to get extended some sort of credit. Oftentimes what will happen is you will go to an application page, you'll put in the information, and then you'll get taken to pre-qualify. Now what that does is it's a specific algorithm that takes into account your information and will pre-qualify you, right? Based on a certain set of criteria. And the machine, right, is already programmed to look for specific things, right? Let's say your income. If your income isn't within a certain threshold, then it's going to automatically decline you. If you're unemployed or you don't have, a job or whatever that may be, right? The machine learning algorithm is going to be able to pick up on that based on a certain set of criteria, and will be able to let you know within a matter of minutes, sometimes even 30 seconds, whether or not you're qualified or even pre-qualified, right? So it's very rare for an actual person to see an application, right, before you even get pre-qualified. They have you go through the automation, and then somebody actually physically takes a look at the application after it's gone through the machine learning algorithms, right? And then with e-commerce here, predicting customer churn, whether or not a transaction is fraudulent. So you think about e-commerce stores such as Shopify, where they have a lot of, different customers, a lot of different customer base. And so what they want to be able to understand is whether or not something is legit, if the order is actually fraudulent, or if it's actually a real order from a real individual. Because believe it or not, there's a lot of fraudulent activity that goes on with e-commerce, right? With being able to have credit cards that are stolen, all of these different things. That's why the e-commerce kind of background, that's why it's very, very powerful in the e-commerce space. And then we have robotics, where this is becoming a lot more prevalent, where you have different technology of robots that are actually being created to take over individuals, right? As far as their jobs. You think about it as far as like the self-driving trucks, right? Like the big cargo trucks that are, delivering, different, materials through these big, huge trucks. Well, there's a lot of automation that goes into that, right? And where the unfortunate trucking companies are essentially being wiped out, right? Where you're getting these companies to invest now into automated trucking or automated tasks where there used to be an individual there. And now, they're being taken over by these automated robotic systems, right? And so that's just something to keep in mind. Obviously, robotics is the future, and it's going to be a massive, massive, growth phase as well. And then next we have the information extraction. This is where you're asking questions over databases across the web. This can be as simple as going to Google, right? You go to Google, you type in, whatever keywords, you're going to see whatever type of results that Google deems to be the most qualified, the most, authentic and authoritative in that particular space, right? That's really more about SEO, but really understanding that the information extraction portion is really about just going into any kind of search bar and typing in, whatever information, and being able to pull up data, through those databases there, right? And then we have the social networks, data on relationships and preferences, right? You think about like different dating websites. You think about just simple social media networks where, you have Facebook, you have LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, all of these different social media platforms all are working within a machine learning algorithm, right? To get to know their particular individual users, to understand what they like, what they don't like, and to be able to reinforce everything that they do like by continuing to show them, similar content, similar material, right? And then we have debugging. If you're unfamiliar with this, this is where you're using it to be able to debug different computers, find different errors, right? Find different bugs on a particular program that'll really help you out and understand, what the problem is. But this is really what ultimately machine learning is about, right? Remember, at a very, very simple and high level, it's about being able to program computers based off of, certain actions, certain criteria that you're looking to, accomplish or get. So that's really what machine learning is about. I'm very excited for you to get started here, and we're going to be writing some machine learning algorithms in this course. So that's going to be it here for this one, and we'll see you on the next one.